G'day, Ziggy here, and author of Money Does Grow on Trees. Welcome to episode 7 of my podcast, Plan to Prosper. Now, on today's episode, we're going to cover everything in relation to selecting an advisor, what you should expect from an advisor, and the fees that you should expect to pay when it comes to seeking financial advice. We're also going to do some street talk, or we've done the street talk, and we're going to show that to you. I had an interesting time, had a great time actually, in the city of Melbourne, just speaking to people and asking them a variety of questions when it came to money, managing their finances, and having a bit of fun with a few other questions. But before we get into today's episode, we have our usual joke. Now, today's joke is, if robbers ever broke into my house searching for money, I would just laugh and search with them. Yep, there we go. All right, let's get on with today's podcast. One of the greatest investors of our time, you would have heard of his name, the great man Warren Buffett, said that price is what you pay, value is what you get. And so in this section, what we're talking about when it comes to advisor fees, we need to differentiate between the price or the cost of financial planning fees as opposed to the value you receive. And so there was a recent survey by Advisor Ratings, and that survey talked about advice fees and how they've increased significantly over the last 12 months and the last 5 years. And one of the reasons for that is because there's been a lot of compliance and really, in many areas, a lot of overburden when it came to the requirements that a financial advisor would need to go through in order to prepare the advice. I mean, in the old days when I first started, I say the old days, I'm not that old, I'd like to think not, but in the old days when I started, it was a lot easier to provide advice. And many people would ask and would say, what is a good superannuation fund, or maybe what is a good managed fund for me to start a small portfolio, or to start with $2,000 and make regular contributions. And we would have maybe, a written document of a couple pages that we would prepare, some advice and just say, look, these are the reasons why, and this is why, we believe it's a good area to begin investing in. These days, it's not that simple. In fact, it's not simple at all. And there is a good reason for that. There is a good reason for that because it's the advisors. There's two main pillars, if you like, when it comes to the financial planner. And you'll see that I use those words intermittently, planner and advisor. But you'll typically know what I'm talking about. And the process, there's two pillars for a financial planner when they're engaging with the client. The two pillars are, we need to know our client and we need to know our product. So ultimately, what we're recommending the client invest in. Now, when it comes to knowing the client, we need to know what their risk profile is, what their tolerance to risk is, how comfortable they are, the sleep factor, if you like. We don't want clients not sleeping well at night because they're worried about their investments. And so their tolerance towards risk, we've got a questionnaire that clients complete and we go through that process, and there's a lot of discussion around that. And ultimately, we land somewhere with that to a point where they're comfortable in that mix, how much between growth assets and the difference between that and defensive assets. And we've covered that on a previous episode. So that's knowing the client and also knowing their goals and objectives, which is very important because, as we've spoken about before, the short, medium, and long-term goals and objectives, and that's broken into, short is 12 months, and the medium is 1 to 5 years, and then the long-term is 5 years plus. And so each of those goals and objectives, if you're wanting to achieve them, we need to know the risk profile, we need to know the client's circumstances, and if they are able to achieve those goals and objectives. Because at the end of the day, we all have limited resources. And if we've got a list of goals and objectives, all those goals and objectives are fighting for those same limited resources. None of us can save our way to retirement. None of us can save our way to, to investing for the future, really. And so a lot of what we need to use is some borrowing and a combination of those things. But knowing the client is very important. And then when it comes to knowing the product, in terms of what we're recommending, we need to know that the product that we're recommending actually suits that client, it's in their best interest, and it suits their strategy as well, because it's not a matter of just recommending because it might be a good product, but it just might not be good for everyone, right, at that particular time. So they're two pillars that financial planners now need to go through. And as a result, there's a process. I mean, if you would have seen on episode 1 of my podcast, we went through the 5 Ps, this 5-step process that I take, this program that I take clients through. And that covers all the compliance that we need to cover. It means that it's when we engage with clients, it's comprehensive. The client understands the process, has good understanding of the process, and actually is empowered then to make decisions that are best for them. But as a result of all that, it's meant that the process is taking longer. It's meant that there's a lot more administration and research when it comes to advice that needs to happen, particularly if you're having a financial plan that is comprehensive and it's holistic, which is different to receiving advice for a specific area. So it could be just superannuation, all right? That's not, well, it shouldn't be as expensive as a full comprehensive a plan. And so what's happened is advice fees have actually increased. The last 12 months and the last 5 years, they've actually increased by 58% in the last 5 years. So what I want to cover today is obviously that because the fees have increased, just to give you an idea of what you should be paying when it comes to advice fees, and also what to look for in a financial planner, okay? Because it's very important that we engage, or the client engages with someone that they can trust and they can relate to and they can understand. You know, where as financial planners, a lot of financial planners, you know, we like to go into jargon to make ourselves feel more important. And it's like, you know, I know everything, just trust me. No, not anymore. It shouldn't be the case. The client should be empowered, have a level of understanding, and be empowered to make decisions that are best for them. So have an understanding and always ask questions of the advisor, of your financial planner. Always ask questions. Anything is a good question. Okay, so the fees have gone up, as we've said, and now we have clients paying an average, the median is $3,960. It's about $4,000 that you would expect to pay whenever you go to get advice from a financial planner. Now, remember, that's an average, that's a median, which means that there's advice fees that are higher and there are advice fees that are lower. On the lower side, as I said, you would expect that to be maybe an initial document that highlights the issues, let's say. So let's say you're right at the starting point and you say, look, I don't know what my issues are. Let's start right at the beginning. So for that type of document, you know, that's just under $2,000. And so that highlights all the issues or all the things that need to be addressed in your financial situation. So that's fairly comprehensive, right? But it's highlighting the issues. There's no advice that's given. It's just highlighting things and saying, okay, this needs to be addressed, that needs to be addressed, and these are the reasons why. When you're then getting into what we call single issue advice or specific advice, which is I now want to get advice in relation to my superannuation fund. Am I in the best superannuation fund? Am I getting the best returns? Is the way that it's invested in line with my risk profile? Is it diversified enough? Okay, and so that type of advice, you're looking around the sort of $3,000 to $3,500 mark. Another example of a single issue advice would be if you're wanting advice specifically around insurance. So let's say you've got life insurance and income protection and critical illness, and you've got TPD, total and permanent disablement, and you know you've got insurance, and you know some of it is inside superannuation through your super fund, some of it is outside, and there's premiums coming out, and don't we all love these debits, direct debits that come out? I think I've got squillions of them. I've got even Netflix, and who knows what else comes up. But insurance premiums are the ones that, at least Netflix, you sort of, okay, well, I'm enjoying something. But when there's insurance premiums come out, it's just like, ooh, the insurance companies. But it's a necessary evil, if you like. And so it needs to be reviewed regularly because different products come out, different quality type of products come out, definitions change. And so sometimes you do need to review your insurance. In fact, you should do it every couple of years. And so in that instance, there will be usually a direct fee, a single issue advice fee that's charged in relation to the insurance. There are still some advisors who don't charge at all for that because there are commissions that are paid then on the insurance, but you'll find that most will, because there's a lot of situations where clients either don't proceed with the advice or can't get their level of insurance because all of a sudden they've gone through the underwriting process and they've got some health issues which may preclude them from getting insurance in place. And so that single issue advice is that sort of $3,000 to $3,500. The next level is when it comes to holistic planning, when it comes to reviewing all your circumstances. So let's say you've got and I'll just use a simple scenario. We've got a couple somewhere between the age of 40 to 55, maybe have a mortgage on their home, maybe one investment property. They've got some superannuation, and some of their goals and objectives are, look, we just don't have a plan. We don't have a strategy. We've got kids we want to put through schooling. We want to maybe put some money aside for them. Want to pay off our home loan, but then we've got to provide for our retirement. We want to go on an overseas trip. In 2 years, we're going to need a new car. So that is a financial plan that is more comprehensive. Okay, so there's a lot more moving parts, and so that becomes something that we engage with in the 5 Ps that I work with clients when we're talking about the program and that process that we take them through. When it comes to that level, and by the way, that does include insurance advice and includes superannuation advice. So it's the whole thing. So it just depends on what your needs are, where you're at, what specific advice you're after. It could be that maybe you're just after some insurance advice, or really that's all you're ready for or need at this point in time. And then we've got a lot of clients who initially engage with us for something that's specific, and then we'll come back later on and say, look, I need a full financial plan because I want to buy an investment property, or I've got 2 or 3 investment properties and I don't know, do I keep them? How do I now retire? Okay, everyone's at different times in their life, everyone's different circumstances. So what your needs are is going to be completely different to another client's needs. And so for that level of advice, that holistic level, that comprehensive advice, you're looking at around anywhere between sort of $5,000 to $8,000, depending on the level of complexity. If there's a self-managed super fund, maybe you're looking at setting up a self-managed super fund, maybe you're looking at an investment property. And so typically in that financial plan, there'll be the modeling and the projections, and you run different scenarios. One example of a client I had recently was young family. They've got their home and they said, look, we're not sure whether we should renovate because we've got a large parcel of land, big backyard. We don't know, do we renovate and really pour the money into our existing home or do we just sell it and then buy a home that's got everything? And so in that financial plan, we did run those scenarios. So we went through the numbers in terms of, well, how much are you going to spend when it comes to renovations? And let's really include everything in there. What would the value of the property then be once those renovations are complete, as opposed to selling and then buying a property that is already complete and then taking into account stamp duty and all the costs that are involved. And so when you run those scenarios, it became very clear for this client which direction they needed to take that was best for their family. And so the value, the price for that is that sort of $5,000 to $8,000 mark. It does get more expensive if you've got various structures. If maybe you're a business and you've got companies and trusts and self-managed super funds in there. And so that is on a quote sort of base level. So typically that you're looking, that may be sort of $10,000 to $15,000. But really, I think your average sort of couple, family, if you like, is going to be around that sort of $5,000 to $8,000 mark, just depending on the level of complexity. So that's what I think you need to be aware of. Look, what am I going to get for this advice, for this fee? What will the advice include? And is there anything that I'm going to need to pay later as a result of you doing extra work? So, for example, be very clear about the scope. Scope is you'll get a document from the advisor, an engagement letter that says, look, this is the scope. This is what's going to be included. this is what's not going to be included. And so very important that that is set up front, and that's directly up to you, the client, as to what is scoped in and scoped out of the advice. Okay, now fees have been going up. Inflation is on the high end, and so the financial pressure that people are feeling has a dual effect, because what's happening is that, look, costs are going up. We're starting to feel that financial pressure, but also that means that, well, I now need advice. So it heightens your awareness about getting financial planning advice because things are tight. But if I'm already under financial pressure, how do I afford to get the advice that I need? And so I would encourage you, speak to a good financial planner who'll be able to maybe then work through a schedule, if you like, and say, okay, what is looping around in your mind right now? What's pressing in your mind? What's the one thing when you go to bed that's sort of that's there, right? That's there in your mind, and it might be just as simple as, what's my loans, my interest rate. Okay, that's maybe the starting point, and then maybe we'll look at your cash flow and your expenses and seeing what else can be done there, and then from then on, maybe you're under financial pressure because there are too many direct debits coming out. Maybe there is insurance in there. Maybe there's lots of other things. Maybe you've got 5 Netflix subscriptions that you weren't even aware of. That does happen, by the way. I've currently got an Amazon Prime one coming through. I don't even know where it's right. We don't have Amazon Prime, so that's something I just noticed last month. I don't know if it's a scam or what. It's just $9.99. It's one of those things that I'll get to it, I'll fix it, but gee, I've got to get and fix it because I don't have access to Amazon Prime. So either I get access to it or I stop paying. Anyway, so it is important to look at that. So it depends on where you're at and what you want to look at, and it could be, look, our loans are whatever. We've just reviewed it. We do have a good broker who's reviewed it. We've got the lowest rate. Okay, that's all we can do. Okay, well, maybe then the next step is to look at maybe some longer term planning. The one thing I have noticed when it comes to the loans is that there are clients that have got money in an offset account. So let's say your loan is $500,000. You got $100,000 in the offset account. The monthly loan repayment is based on $500,000. Even though you're only paying interest on $400,000. So if your cash flow is tight, there's an opportunity there to refinance that net debt amount, which is $400,000, which will bring down your monthly loan repayment. Sure, it means you don't have access to that $100,000 if you need it, but again, if you don't really need it, and the focus right now is to reduce your cash flow, then that's one way of doing it. We had a client that exact scenario played out. And then we were able to refinance, and then they were saving, I think it was about $1,500 a month just in loan repayments, because they had a fair bit in the offset account, but the loan was at about $750. They had about $300,000 in the offset account. So now we refinance based on that $450. Now the monthly loan repayment is based on $450, not $750. Okay, so there's always ways that a good financial planner will be able to look at your finances holistically and help you work through that. It's about making sure that you've got everything is efficient and effective when it comes to managing your finances. Now, 1 in 4 unadvised consumers, this is the research that the survey that came out, 1 in 4 unadvised consumers are considering seeking financial planning advice, which equates to approximately 2.3 million people. 2.3 million people. That's a lot of people. So what's happened is over the last 5 to 7 years, we've had 10 to 12,000 financial planners that have left the industry. Now, that's a good thing because maybe these financial planners shouldn't have been in them in the first place. But it's a bad thing in the sense that now the demand for financial planning advice is ever increasing, and we've got fewer financial planners. And the costs of providing financial advice has gone up, and therefore the cost and the fees have gone up. But there's 2.3 million Australians at the moment who don't have a financial planner, but they are actively out there seeking. So 1 in 4 are considering seeking financial advice. And we see it here at 3P all the time. We're constantly getting people engaging with us and following up. And the majority of the times, I mean, there's times when they engage on something specific, but the majority of the times it's around, we've got an investment property. We don't know, should we buy a second one? We don't know. People are talking about a self-managed super fund. We don't know whether we've got the best loans. We just need someone to review things overall and holistically, right? Which is exactly what I enjoy and we enjoy doing, because I think that when you view things holistically, you can find inefficiencies in the way that the finances are set up and the way that it's being managed. And if we deal with those inefficiencies and make things more efficient, well, then that means that unlocks, some further wealth rather than just looking at one specific area. Okay. The primary areas, so this survey was talking about the main areas that people were where people were looking for, asking for advice, was around superannuation and planning for retirement. So there was 45% that were looking for superannuation advice, and then 39% was about planning for retirement. Now, what that indicates is that you're talking about the majority of people that are getting financial planning advice are towards that sort of 45 to 55, okay, down that end, or even 40 to 55 is that range that we're seeing that we're getting a lot of engagement from. And that's because, look, when you're 25 and 30, and I've been there, it's just like, retirement's so far away, it's all good. Superannuation, who cares about super? I can't access it. It doesn't matter where it is. Let me tell you, we've said it on another podcast, make sure you're looking at, because it's your money, right? It's your money. And so the earlier you start, the less you have to do. Okay, let me say that again. The earlier you start, the less you have to do. There's a Greek saying, I'll say it in Greek because it sounds good, fasoli gemizi to sakuli. You go, that sounds awful. No, it does sound awful, but what it means is bean by bean, the bag fills up. Okay, so you're filling it up. It's like a jar of, what were the things we used to play with? The marbles, right? We used to play with the marbles. One marble, a second marble. Or it's a lolly jar, or it's, 20 cents. Remember the piggy banks that we used to fill up? Your 20 cents. And it does fill up. And that, you're not having to do a lot. But the later that you leave it, the shorter time frame you have for which to achieve your goals and objectives, and therefore the greater risk you need to take and the more that you need to do. So why leave it to the end? So that's one thing that stood out for me when it came to this survey, was the majority of people are talking about retirement and superannuation. So think about retirement. And when we're talking about a retirement, we're not necessarily, there's a lot of connotations, negative connotations with that word, right? It's about retiring and never working again. But focus on what you were trying to achieve here. What you were trying to achieve is financial independence. Now, financial independence might be 55 or 60 or 50, whatever you would like it to be within reason. And you may continue work. So it's a real empowering position to be in, to get up in the morning and say, today I'm working not because I have to, but because I want to. That's financial independence. That is true wealth. And so aim for that. So start planning early. So I'm just trying to give you an indication today in terms of fees, in terms of what people are looking when it comes to financial planning. And I think, as always, as I've said on previous podcasts, previous episodes, that when you're looking for a financial planner, my view is that you engage with someone that's holistic and who, within their practice, their business, within their network, they can refer you to someone, or they have other specialist advisors in the different areas. So, for example, there's a lawyer that would focus on estate planning. There's an accountant that would deal with the tax. There's a finance broker that will help with the loans, or there's a property person that would help with, either purchasing a property, selling a property, or managing that property from a rental perspective. So find someone that's holistic. They are a lot harder to find because of a lot of advisors either do insurance and superannuation and maybe some investment, which is that specific issue fee that I was talking about, which is around that sort of $3,000 mark. But look for someone that's more holistic. And if you can't find anyone, of course, 3P, we do everything here. All right, so that's the heavy stuff done for today. And for the rest of the episode, I went out to, we were in the Bourke Street Mall here in Melbourne, and I had some fun. I just went around and I asking people a variety of questions. You'll see there's a few common questions that we asked there. Responses were great, and the responses were varying, right? So it was interesting to see, people who had planned in place and people who didn't have any planning in place, and some of the answers that were just outright just funny. So enjoy this. G'day, Ziggy here, and welcome to this Street Talk segment. We're in the Bourke Street Mall in Melbourne, and we're asking a set of rapid-fire questions. It's a beautiful day here in Melbourne, so let's go take a look. Okay, so if you woke up tomorrow with 10 million, what would you do?
I would first pay off my mortgage, the little bit I've got left, and I don't know, I'd probably go on a big holiday around the world.
Me too. I pay my house off first and then I'll have a holiday.
With first question, rapid fire. If you woke up with $10 million tomorrow, what would you do?
Pay off the mortgage.
Buy my entire closet from Pinterest.
Go travelling.
Yeah, travelling.
Awesome.
Definitely find someone to help me to invest the money.
Yep. Maybe like me?
Maybe. If you have a good offer, why
Yeah.
not? Yeah.
Tatiana, what would you do?
I come throwing around the world.
Travel around the world.
So you want to invest it? So maybe a bit of both.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. What advice would you give a younger you?
Oh my God, to save every penny. Work hard, don't waste it on accessories or fun things or anything. So just put it away and invest it. My daughter's doing it much better than I did when I was a kid.
Hiya, Michaela. How much are you saving?
I've saved like $3,000 from work so far.
Wow, what work are you doing?
Just Macca's.
Awesome, well done. Here you go, girl. What financial advice would you give a younger you?
Save, invest, and be reasonable.
Be reasonable. Tell me about the reasonable part.
Oh, I mean, don't go with the lifestyle everyone is living. Just do things an easy way. Take your time. Don't copy anyone. You know, just be yourself.
Put all your money into super as much as you can.
Much you can. So save as much as you can and
Yeah.
invest as much as you can.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Work hard and save money and live at home with your parents as long as you can.
Well, you're not Greek, are you?
No, but my children are still at home with me.
How old are the children?
One's 23, that's my daughter over there, and my other son's 21, and yeah, they're still living at home because
Great advice.
it's so cheap, and they can save their money.
What about you?
Just save.
Save.
Yep.
When it comes to your finances, are you completely open and transparent with your partners?
Yes, although I always say don't leave a paper trail if you can avoid it.
Yes.
Yes, completely.
Yes.
Almost.
He knows nothing.
He knows. And you want to keep it that
True.
way? Want to keep it that way?
Well, he just lets me
He
do
just
it.
lets you do it all. What about from an income perspective? If your income stopped now, how many months could you survive?
If my husband's income stopped, because I don't work much,
Okay.
yeah, but if his income stopped, you probably could survive, I reckon, about 5 months, you reckon 6 months?
Yeah, be pretty
Yeah.
frugal. Yeah.
It wouldn't be you wouldn't be like years, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a backup of parents who can provide me with an income.
Yeah.
So I have family who can support me financially.
Let's sing about Italians, yeah? Italians and Greeks, we've got plenty of support.
Yeah, we got family support.
Yeah, maybe too much support.
Exactly.
If you didn't have any more income coming in,
Yeah.
how long could you survive?
Currently,
Yeah.
probably 6 years.
6 years.
Correct.
So if you had no other income from work coming in,
Yeah, I can survive 6 years.
you could survive for 6 years.
Correct.
I haven't met anyone that can survive for I haven't met anyone that can survive for 6 months without
I
income.
can survive 6 years.
Hope you enjoyed the street talk. And now, if you've got questions that you think I should be asking out there, then send them to me. Let's link in and connect on social media, or the links are there. And I'd love to hear from you. So that's the episode for today. I trust it's been engaging for you. I trust you've gotten value out of it in terms of selection of advisor, fees to pay, and we've had a bit of fun and gaining insight into what the public think when we ask them that question. So I look forward to you joining me on the next episode. I'll see you then.